Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So we are here today because as we negotiate the mayor's proposed budget and we continue on with deliberations, we, the Democratic Caucus, would like to see the reinstatement of the fire and police positions that were cut in this year's proposed budget. We believe that in order to properly assess and adequately respond to emergency situations, that these positions should be reinstated. In a perfect world, we would like to see more manpower added to our emergency service departments. However, at the very least, we would like to see these positions put back and for us to continue working together as a city to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible and adequately supporting our departments. As you can see behind us, we are at 1177 Warburton Avenue in a building that was in a recent fire. And we just want to ensure that things like this and situations that are high-end, that we have enough support and manpower to tackle and address these situations. So I will seize the floor to Councilmember Christopher Johnson.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So what we have to remember is that the budget is a negotiation. The mayor puts out his proposal and it comes to the council. We go through deliberations and we're at the point now where we're having the conversations about what we think should be put in, what we think should be taken out, and if there needs to be any expanded services, what that looks like. So we need to make sure that we find the funding to make sure that these positions can be put back into the budget. The Democrats on the council, we have a plan that we've discussed, and we're in negotiations with our colleagues on the other side because we understand and we believe that as long as situations like this are possible, that we're not setting ourselves up for the best situations. We're setting ourselves up for failure. So the reality is we want to make sure that any position that has been cut from the budget, we find the proper funding, the adequate amount of funding to make sure that those positions are restored so that we can make sure that we have the fire and police protection that we have. The fact that a situation like this can occur where there's potential opportunities for prevention, fire like this would not occur potentially if the prevention services had existed and fires throughout the city where the same situations occur. If we can make sure that that is not a reality, that we bring down the number of fires. Yes, it's hard to quantify in dollar amounts, but the reality is that a life is, you can't put a price on a life. And so we want to make sure that we save as many lives as possible, and that's what these services are for, to make sure that each and every resident in this city is safe. Thank you.
And just to conclude really quickly, we have to remember that our city is increasing in development, and as we continue to welcome these developers to come here, we have to make sure that we are rationally, proportionately investing in our city as far as our emergency services. So as our city grows, we need to grow our departments and make sure that we can sustain the amount of individuals, new individuals that will come to the city, and the amount of development that has happened here in our city. Thank you.
Well, Barry, at the end of the day, your men are the ones that come to the fires to save and protect us and take us out of dangerous situations. How does this has affected you, the last two fires, has affected you in regards to getting the people out? On the day of this fire, there was another fatal fire on 7
William Street.
And while I was interviewing somebody, some people said that you guys took a little too long. We understood that there were many fires going on, but had we had the one at the school street, would things be a little different, possibly?
Well, I think things definitely would have been a lot different. The woman who unfortunately passed away on William Street probably had a much better chance of survival if we weren't occupied with a fire here at this development. And we see over the course of the last several years, there's been a tremendous increase in development in our city, which is overburdening our emergency services. And we see it in the fire department, how our call volume is up dramatically, and we're responding to many different areas of the city, whether it's Ridge Hill, whether it's Executive Boulevard, Bronx River Road, here on Warburton Avenue, and all over the city, there's development. We see new hotels, we see new apartment buildings. It's just a tremendous amount of development, but yet there's no additional resources to provide services. The administration loves to talk about Generation Yonkers and to come live, work, and play in the city of Yonkers. But along with that, we have to have services. And there's probably nothing more vital than emergency services and fire protection. It takes a tremendous amount of resources when there's a fire. and almost a 2-alarm fire in the city of Yonkers almost depletes our entire resources. So as we have a bigger and more growing city, we're going to have more instances like this where we'll have multiple alarms out simultaneously, and as a result, we can only do with what we have. We can't fly in extra firefighters immediately. It takes time to bring more firefighters onto a scene and to recall firefighters. And if this development continues at the pace it is, and if there's no additional resources committed to the city, to the fire department, we're going to have more instances of this. You see, this building here is ordinary construction. It's wood. It's clad in foam. It's my personal belief that building materials such as these should not be used. And thank God this building was unoccupied at the time of the fire, because dozens of people may have perished in this building. The toxic smoke that comes from those foam panels. I'm sure afterwards you'll zoom in on this building and look at the construction and how quickly this building went up on fire and the fire spread. Now, if that had happened at 2 o'clock in the morning, there could literally be hundreds of people inside this building. The closest firehouse to here is on Warburton Avenue, the northern end of Warburton Avenue. It's a single engine company with no ladder protection. A ladder is what we use to get to the upper floors and to roofs, to do ventilation, to save people, to search for people that are trapped in a fire. We don't have any of those resource capabilities in this part of the city. This is the northernmost western part of the city, and the one single engine company that's here is basically cut off by geography and distance from the rest of the fire department. So just as we develop Ridge Hill, we need additional resources. As we develop Executive Boulevard or Bronx River Road or the Central Avenue corridor, Warburton Avenue, there's a risk here. And we know that there's a tremendous amount of development plans in the works from Point Street, Alexander Street. It's not going to end here with the Ginsburg project. There's literally billions of dollars worth of development on the table in the planning stages in the city of Yonkers. And just as we have to plan for development of a building, we have to plan for additional resources that are needed by our fire department and our police department, and for that matter, the Department of Public Works and the Board of Education. These things do not happen in a vacuum. When we grow, whether it's you grow a family or you grow a neighborhood, the resources that are needed to keep that family or neighborhood up have to be increased. There's a limited amount of budget in the city of Yonkers. We need additional financial resources, and the fire department, we need more personnel.
So the city is growing at a very fast speed, but the emergency services to go with it, to support and help, it's not.
Well, not only is it not growing, we have a budget that's on the table right now which proposes to cut fire personnel and police personnel. We should be expanding. We should be rapidly expanding, just like the city's expanding, and unfortunately, they're looking to cut.
So are you saying that the city sees there is a price tag on each person's head? In sense of, if we need emergency people and we don't have it, and people will die because of this, it's associated with dollars, because dollars would give us enough people to help protect and those people in need. Is that a price tag?
Well, there's a price tag for everything, and there's priorities. When you have a budget, whether it's your budget at home, you have to make a decision. Do I pay the rent? Do I buy food? Do I buy a video game? A city is no different than a budget. It's just much bigger. The number's much bigger with a lot more zeros, but it's all about priorities. When you have a limited budget, the number one priority should be life safety, and the fire department is a major component of that.
But if your kid is sick, you take him to the hospital right away, regardless of the other priorities. The city is growing. We need firemen to cover the growth of our city. The firemen are not growing at the same speed that it needs to grow to satisfy the increase. So are the emergencies really there? If one thing is not growing with the other?
Well, the emergencies are there. We have fires almost on a daily basis, and we respond. But the number of instances of emergencies is increasing, and as the city increases, we're going to continue to see that trend. And unfortunately, in our business, if the fire department doesn't respond, lives are at risk, and sometimes lives are lost. And it's unfortunate that it can be prevented by additional resources, and we have to plan for that. And that's one of our major concerns, is instead of making cuts or even proposing cuts at this point is almost ludicrous that anybody would propose cutting the fire department. We should be planning to expand it.
John, do you have anything to say?
Well, I just want to echo what Barry said, and I think it's really important to note that the mayor's own fire commissioner has proposed, not only is he against cuts, but he's proposed additional positions in this year's budget, knowing that it's a tight budget, You know, this is their expert, and he is a very credible fire service leader. He has analyzed the fire problem and the emergency problem in Yonkers, and he's stated that we need to have more positions in the budget. He's requested those positions, and not only should we not be cut, but those positions should be put into the budget. And as Barry said, you know, we've had tremendous development here in Yonkers for going on years now, and this is something that we're not just making the public and our elected officials aware of now. We've been making them aware of this danger to the residents and the businesses in the city of Yonkers for many years. Not only the unions, but the fire department leadership, this fire commissioner, previous fire commissioners, have all gone on the record to state that as the city grows, the fire department needs to grow commensurate with that growth so that we can protect people adequately, provide adequate fire protection. And unfortunately, I don't see any indication that this is being heard by the leaders of the city, those who control the purse strings. And what we feel we're doing now is we're just essentially creating a record, a kind of a situation where we're going to be saying, we told you so, when we have more tragedies, until eventually there's an accumulation of enough events that there's a reaction. So we would like to try to convince the city to be proactive, to analyze this in an educated, intelligent way and say, yes, we need to increase fire department resources to do our due diligence and to live up to our responsibilities to keep the public safe before there's a tragedy that gets everyone's attention. I really hope that someday you're not playing this interview in front of a building like this one behind me that has multiple fatalities have occurred because of a lack of fire department resources. I hope that somebody will hear this message and will react and will provide adequate resources before we have that tragedy. We really feel that it's inevitable if something is not done to grow the fire department commensurate with the growth that we're seeing in the city. And one last important point is that not only are we seeing growth, but our existing housing stock is aging. And as housing, particularly the multifamily housing, wood frame housing in the city of Yonkers ages, we're going to have more and more fires, and we're going to have more and more serious fires. That's just something that we know is going to occur, and we need to be proactive and get ahead of this now before we have more tragedies like we did when on the day that this fire occurred, and an unfortunate lady lost her life on William Street at the same time that this fire was burning because of a lack of fire department resources to respond.
Now, this question goes to either one of you. We spoke about the problem, we spoke about the ramifications of the problem. If you had the mayor right here, what would be your direct question or a comment to him? What would you tell him directly? What needs to be done, what you feel needs to be done?
Well, we have to grow, just like we're planning to grow the city, we have to grow our services. And for us, it's the fire service. So I would ask the mayor to look within the budget and to find the resources, whether it's within the city of Yonkers, from our developers or from Albany. But we have a lot of developers coming into the city, like Mr. Ginsburg here, developing this project. They tout it as a super luxury building, and yet they come to the city for financial assistance, and it's granted through the IDA. We have the most beautiful and picturesque waterfront there is in the entire Hudson River. And with someone who was actually taking a train along the Hudson River, there is no more beautiful spot than the city of Yonkers. It's crazy to be giving anybody a tax incentive or abatement to develop these parcels. If anything, they should be paying a premium to be here, to be along this beautiful Hudson River, and to have the picturesque views of the sun setting in the west over the Palisades. It's beautiful. Right next to the train stations, 20 minutes from New York City. We should not be giving them 1 penny of our tax dollars to develop these buildings. And what's happening, unfortunately, is we're giving them a break. And they're not even paying the fair share that is required to maintain services, whether that's fire services, police services, sanitation services, and even education. You know, many of the residents that live in this building will have children, and those children will attend our public schools. And if you do the math, there's not even enough money to cover the services they're going to use with their contributing here. What happens with traffic? More people means more cars, more congestion, which makes it even more difficult for the fire department to respond, for the police to respond, for ambulances to respond, more school buses on the street. So these developments should be adding to our city. They should not be becoming a burden to our city. If they were bringing in substantial tax revenues that were going to assist the city in maintaining the services we had, that'd be one thing. But they're not doing that. Most of the development in this city is a drain on the city of Yonkers, and they're not even bringing enough revenue to cover the services that they require.
Thank you. Anything else you guys would like to add?
Good.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.